Thursday, September 20th, 2018, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. I'd like to look again at the UK housing market today. A month ago exactly, I did a video entitled, "Is the UK housing bubble about to pop?" And I'm going to be touching upon that video again. And I also want to talk about freedom and how until, as a whole, we go back to being sovereign and to wanting power and freedom of the individual, we're never going to get away from big government, the bankers, or anyone else. And I'll play a clip of a small video of the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, later on and talk about how it relates to that. Before, of course, I'm going to go have a look at the markets, see what they're doing this morning. It's at 8:40 a.m. So where are we? Spot gold, 1203.20. It's down less than $1, so pretty much unchanged. The range overnight has been 1202 to 1206.80, so very narrow range. Silver is starting to outperform a little bit gold, but still very subdued. 1424 this morning, unchanged. Range has been 1421 to 1437. I've noticed this week the lows every morning that I've reported on the market have been higher than the previous day. So a good sign, maybe. The stock markets continue to roar ahead, especially the Dow seems to be catching up now a little bit to the S&P. We're only about 200 points away from, or even less, from the all-time high in the beginning of this year. Right now, the Dow futures up 40 at 26,448. The S&P is up 2.5 points at 2909, and the Nasdaq 100 futures 74.93 unchanged. Currencies, they're actually catching a little bit of a bid here. Even though gold is not changed, the pound is up 0.25%, 131.77. The euro is just above 117, 117.02, up 0.25, and the dollar is virtually unchanged against the yen at 112.22. Dollar yuan unchanged as well, 685. Crude oil continuing to move higher here. WTI now above 71. It's up 45 cents overnight, or 2/3%. Brent crude is 79.30. So that will not be not a good sign for consumer spending, and our economies these days, of course, are based on credit and spending. The other thing that was very interesting yesterday is that the bond markets continue to go lower, and I'm going to be talking about them in just a minute or so in relationship to the UK housing market. Right now, the 10-year yield is at 307, above that 3% level. Well, actually 306 right now. Yesterday, the high was 309. The key level for the last year is 313. That was the high earlier this year. So that means that bond prices are going down, of course. That means that the cost of borrowing money is going up everywhere. Governments have a monopoly on, governments they can print the money to pay back their loans. We can't, the private sector can't. So if government interest rates or yields are going up, that means they're going up everywhere in the economy. So now to the UK housing market. So I made a video exactly, it's weird because it's exactly a month ago, August 20th, and I asked the question, is the UK housing bubble about to pop? I covered a few articles that have been on Bloomberg and other news sources, and I'll put the link to this video above in the cards and below in the description. So why am I kind of making another video on the UK housing market, and whether it's the bubble's about to pop. Well, because I've always said that until interest rates start moving up quickly, and by interest rates I mean longer term interest rates like the 10-year yield, interest rates that the central bank can't really control totally, like short-term interest rates that they change regularly. Until that happens, the UK housing market could stay, pretty steady and not like implode or go down sharply. And it would also help keep consumer spending going and everything going. But so it's been a month, and since then though, and this has been something I've been looking at quite a bit because U.S. Rates have been going up quite a bit, since the summer of 2016. The 10-year yield has gone from like 136 to over 3% now. But the UK gilt yield until a month ago was still hovering around less, 1.25%, and it was really near the lows. And I was like, I couldn't quite get why it wasn't going higher, the yields, or the gilt prices going down. So gilts are the equivalent of U.S. Treasuries in the UK. It's what the government borrows. When they borrow, they issue gilts. But lo and behold, I was looking at the gilt market yesterday, and all of a sudden, it's crept up, the yield. So, for example, in the last month, so ever since I made that video, the 10-year yield in the gilt has gone up by 39 basis points, and it's right now at 161. And you might say, well, that's still really low, but the fact is that the move has been relatively sharp and quick, in my opinion. Just to give you an example, in the last year, the UK 10-year gilt yield has gone up 27 basis points. So we've had all this move and more in 1 month. So I think that could be pointing to more and more trouble in the UK housing market. Of course, we need to keep an eye on the data, on the real estate data, the housing data, the price data. And London is at the epicenter, of course, of the UK housing bubble. And there's also commercial property. There's buy-to-let or rental properties. The people who have put their money in rental properties are people who are not getting much in the bank. So what they've done is they they borrowed even, or they bought outright properties to rent to try to get a better return on their money. I think a lot of them though have borrowed a lot because mortgages are so low, so they've been greedy and taken advantage of it. But now with interest rates rising like this, it's dangerous. The other thing people don't sometimes realize about the interest rates on UK mortgages is that they can be based on 10, 20, 30-year rates. But a lot of times, your mortgage could be, let's say the average loan is for 30 years, but within that agreement you could fix the rate for 2 years, sometimes for 4 years or 5 years. So just because you have a 30-year deal and it's fixed doesn't mean it's fixed for 30 years. So when interest rates start going up sharply, as they seem to be in the UK now, we need to watch out. So that's what I wanted to point out to. The other subject I want to touch upon is how, in the end of the day, how free are we? Unfortunately, I don't think we are as free as we think. One thing that kind of dilutes our freedom is to do with Benjamin Franklin's quote and I quote here, he said, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." And he was very right, even though he said that over 200 years ago or so. Nothing has changed. And it's all up to us not to buy into. And how do we lose our liberty for safety? Well, we buy into the establishment's wars. We buy into their divide and conquer strategies to make us scared of different groups. And unfortunately, the majority of people buy into that. And we call for our own safety, you know, and we call for our own liberties to be usurped. I saw a video yesterday of Jeremy Corbyn. He has a Twitter account, and just a few days ago, I think September 15th, this is what he put on his Twitter account. Excuse me, let me just, this is what he put on his Twitter account, and I'll start it right now, and you listen to it.
Bankers like Morgan Stanley should not run our country, but they think they do, because the party they fund and protects their interests, the Conservative Party, is in Downing Street. That's why they want to keep the Tories there, because their rigged economy and their tax cuts for the richest work for them. These are the same speculators and gamblers who crashed our economy in 2008. And then we had to bail them out. Their greed plunged the world into crisis, and we're still paying the price. Because the talk...
So, I mean, I could have said that. The City of London, Wall Street, they brought the system down. We had to bail them out. And now they're getting richer and richer. The general public isn't. And yes, the only problem I have with the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, is that they want you to get out of the frying pan and jump into the fire, so to speak. They want you to go from a government of the bankers to a big government. I personally think it's unfortunate. I would rather go for a government that respected individual freedom and respected small government and a small state. But you look at the Labour Party website, at their how can I say, their platform. It's all geared toward government control of everything. Would that really change anything? I don't think so. Would infringe just as much on individual liberty? Because what if I don't choose to, play the government's game? What if I want to respect the rule of law, respect other people's property, but be left alone? Don't tread on me. So that's the unfortunate thing. We've got a politician here in the UK. He's the leader of the opposition, as they call it here, the Labour Party, equivalent, let's say, of the Democrats. And he knows, he seems to know what's happened to the monetary system, to the bankers, and how we had to bail them out. Unfortunately, his solutions are not what, in my opinion, encourages individual freedom, what protects individual freedom, and what protects the rule of law and private property. And am I saying the system that we have now does that? No, of course it doesn't. We need to go back to a system of where the individual is supreme, the individual is protected. Just like Frederick Bastiat said, we can't have legal plunder. And the other thing he said, that the state or big government is the great fiction in which people think they can live at the expense of everyone else. And that's what Corbyn's calling for. And I can understand why Jeremy Corbyn and a lot of young people fall for this. Because they're saying, if the bankers can print all this money, put it all on our backs, bail themselves out, get richer, why can't we do that for the general public? And they don't realize that this is just doing what the bankers did. And that two wrongs don't make a right. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Make sure you press the little bell to get notified of my videos, because YouTube doesn't notify you, even though you might subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Steemit, DTube, and on Twitter. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.